Let go of me, the woman screamed as she stumbled backward, heels skidding against the greasy pavement. It was just after 9 a.m. when the screams shattered the quiet of the back parking lot behind an old gas station in the industrial district. 3 men in hoodies had surrounded her, shoving, shouting. One of them had a knife. Carter Blake wasn't supposed to be there. He was cutting through the lot as a shortcut, running 10 minutes late to the most important job interview of his life. His chest heaved. He'd sprinted 6 blocks just to make it to Westech Engineering, holding a folder with a resume he'd printed at the library. This interview, it was all he had left. But when he saw the woman cornered against the dumpster, his body stopped moving forward. The moment gripped him like steel. The tallest man snarled at her. "Give me the bag, lady, or I swear to God." Carter's instincts kicked in like they were wired to something deeper than logic. "It's EY," he roared, his voice echoing across the alley. "Back off." The 3 men turned. The one with the knife sneered. "Keep walking, bro. This ain't your business." Carter had nothing on him. No weapon. No backup. He hadn't thrown a punch since high school. But that didn't matter. He stepped forward anyway. "You heard me," Carter said, louder this time. "Let her go. Then come get her." The thug grinned, tossing the woman to the side. She hit the concrete with a cry. Carter's blood surged. The next moments were chaos, raw and violent. Carter lunged, tackling the knife wielder first, knocking the blade loose. But fists flew fast. One thug cracked him across the face. Another drove a knee into his side. Carter swung back, connecting once, then again. His ribs screamed, but he didn't back down. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't heroic. It was brutal. But the distraction worked. The woman scrambled to her feet and ran, dialing for help. The attackers realized it wasn't worth it. They took off, one spitting blood, the other limping. Carter stumbled, coughing, clutching his side. "You okay?" the woman called, breathless, stepping toward him. He gave her a crooked smile, bruised lips splitting open. "I'm fine. Go. You're safe now. You're bleeding." "I'm late," he muttered, looking down at his torn shirt, broken watch, and the resume folder still in his hand, crushed, soaked with sweat. The interview was over before it began. She tried to stop him. "At least tell me your name." But Carter was already walking away, limping, furious with himself for caring more about someone else than about his future. He had no idea she'd memorized his face. No idea she'd been watching everything. No idea she was Savannah Cole, the CEO of Westech, the same company he'd just lost his shot with. And by the time she got back to her office, she already had a security team tracking him down. Because she didn't see a stranger in that alley. She saw a man the world didn't deserve. Savannah Cole stared at the security footage on her office monitor, jaw clenched tight. There he was, Carter Blake, charging into 3 men like he didn't even hesitate. She watched it again, and again. Each time, her hands tightened on the desk edge. That level of selflessness. It wasn't just rare. It was real. Most people don't step in. Most people pretend they didn't see. But not him. And now he was probably sitting somewhere, broke, bruised, and believing he'd thrown away the one shot he had at a better life. Her assistant, Dana, stepped in. "Ma'am, you're already behind for the board call." Savannah stood. "Cancel it." Dana blinked. Cancel the quarterly board call." "I said cancel it," Savannah repeated. "We're not discussing dividends while the only man in this city with a backbone walks around unemployed." She grabbed her phone, dialed the head of security. "Derek, I want you to track a man named Carter Blake. Mid-20s, white t-shirt, torn jeans, blood on his collar. He stopped a mugging behind Goldie's gas station this morning. I want his address in the next 2 hours." "Yes, ma'am." "And Derek." "Yes." "Be discreet. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering opportunity." Across the city, Carter sat on a splintered bench outside a closed-down auto repair shop, pressing a damp paper towel to the swelling under his eye. His ribs throbbed with each breath. The interview was gone. Westech wasn't going to reschedule for some random nobody who showed up an hour late looking like he'd just crawled out of brawl. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone. Dead. Figures. He chuckled bitterly. One fight. One decision. Now what? He didn't know where his next rent payment was coming from. His car hadn't started in 2 weeks, and he still owed the corner store $70 in overdue groceries. But if he had to go back, he'd do it again. He wouldn't let that woman get hurt, no matter what it cost. Savannah found him just before sunset. She stepped out of the black SUV, wearing a dark blazer, her heels crunching against broken glass on the sidewalk. Carter looked up, startled. "You," he breathed. She nodded once. "Me? How did you find me? I'm not in the habit of letting people save my life and walk away like it never happened." "I'm not expecting a thank you," Carter said carefully. "I just did what anyone decent would have done." Savannah gave him a look, measured, sharp. "Let me be clear. That wasn't decency. That was courage. And courage has value." He stood slowly. "Look, I missed the interview. It's done. I get it." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You missed the interview to do something no amount of training could have taught. That matters more to me than anything you could have said in a conference room." She reached into her pocket, handed him a sleek envelope. The weight of it alone made his stomach flip. "What's this?" "An offer," she said. "I'm hiring you directly. You start Monday. You'll work under me, directly. No HR, no panel interview. Just you, me, and a shot to prove that instincts like yours belong in boardrooms, too." He stared at her. "You don't even know if I'm smart enough for that." She smiled. "You're smart enough to know when to fight. That's rare in this world." He looked at the envelope, stunned. "I don't know what to say." Savannah looked him dead in the eyes. "Say yes, and then show me I'm not wrong about you." The doors to Westech's 41st floor opened with a hiss. Carter stepped out, freshly shaven, wearing a navy blue suit Savannah had arranged for him through a discreet courier. He still felt out of place in it, like a kid borrowing his dad's clothes, but when he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror, he stood a little straighter. This was real. The receptionist looked up and blinked twice before saying, Mr. Blake? Miss Cole is waiting for you." Every step down that corridor felt like walking a tightrope over boiling water. People glanced at him from cubicles, whispered behind coffee mugs, stared like he didn't belong. And deep down, maybe part of him agreed. He'd grown up mowing lawns, not reading spreadsheets. He didn't drink overpriced coffee. He made instant in a chipped mug. The elevator alone smelled like money. But Savannah? She didn't just open a door. She lit the hallway. When he stepped in her office, she looked up from her laptop with a warm smile. Right on time, Carter adjusted his collar. "Try not to screw up on day one." "You won't." She handed him a thick binder. "You're shadowing me this week, starting with a merger we've been preparing for 6 months. You're going to learn by fire." He swallowed. "So no hand-holding." She smirked. "I don't believe in it." 3 hours later, Carter was drowning. The boardroom was packed. Suits, screens, graphs. Words like liability ceilings and acquisition clawbacks were being thrown around like confetti at a wedding. Savannah sat at the head, sharp and commanding, fielding questions from billion-dollar lawyers like she was ordering lunch. Carter stayed silent, took notes, tried to breathe, until something caught his ear. One of the junior partners, Miles Worthington, was walking through a valuation model, but he'd misread a decimal. A $20 million miscalculation. No one else noticed. Carter hesitated, then leaned toward Savannah and whispered, "He just undervalued the target's IP rights. That figure should be multiplied, not divided." She didn't react, just waited a beat, then interrupted the presentation. "Miles, double-check that figure on slide 9. Miles froze. Checked. His face flushed. "Ah, yes. My mistake." Savannah looked at Carter, then back at the table. "Good catch." Carter Blake will be reviewing all financial summaries moving forward. Everyone, make note of that. You could have heard a pin drop. One of the senior VPs, Lal Benton, a man with a handshake like a dead fish and an ego the size of Texas, raised an eyebrow. "Savannah, with all due respect, who is this kid?" Savannah turned slowly. "This kid saved my life 5 days ago, and in the last 10 minutes, he caught something 3 Ivy League MBAs missed. He's here because he earned it. Any other questions?" Lal didn't speak again, but the whispers didn't stop. By the end of the day, Carter's name was already echoing in private chats. Some street kid gets promoted overnight. He's just a pity project. Bet she's sleeping with him. Carter saw the looks, felt the cold shoulders, but he didn't quit. He came early, stayed late, asked smart questions, and every time he thought about walking away, he remembered the look on Savannah's face that day. The one that said, "I see something and no one else does." But he wasn't the only one keeping secrets. Savannah had one too. One tied to the alley. one she hoped he'd never uncover. And if it ever surfaced, it wouldn't just cost her the company. It might destroy Carter completely. It had been 3 weeks. 3 weeks since Carter Blake went from jobless nobody to the youngest executive assistant in Westech's cutthroat upper floor. He still wore the same beat-up watch from his grandfather and packed lunch in a plastic grocery bag. But now, people whispered when he walked by, not just in mockery, but in confusion, because against all odds, he wasn't failing. He was rising. Savannah's trust in him hadn't wavered. She invited him into meetings that junior analysts wouldn't touch in 5 years. When executives challenged his presence, she shut them down with a single stare. When a senior director mocked Carter for using a pen and paper instead of an iPad, she said, "That pen caught a $20 million error. What did your tablet do today?" He was learning fast, absorbing the heartbeat of billion-dollar deals like his life depended on it. And in a way it did. But behind Savannah's poised calm, something was cracking. She had stopped sleeping. Her eyes stayed open long after midnight, replaying security footage from that alley over and over. Not because of what happened, but because of what she knew. She wasn't just some random woman targeted by thugs. And Carter hadn't just stepped into any alley. He had stepped between her and a man she once trusted, someone who was never supposed to find her again. That night, Carter was in the office alone. Everyone else had gone home, but he stayed late to revise a proposal. He liked the quiet. The building felt less like a machine and more like something alive. Something he belonged to now. He walked toward the private copy room to print a draft when he noticed it. Savannah's office light was still on. She never stayed this late. He tapped once. "Savannah? Everything all right?" She looked up, startled. Her laptop screen dimmed as she quickly minimized a file. "Yes, just finishing up a report." But Carter had caught a glimpse of what she was viewing. It wasn't a spreadsheet. It was a mugshot, and it was one of the men from the alley. He stepped forward. "Who was that?" Her shoulders stiffened. "Just someone from legal proceedings." "No, Savannah. That was one of the guys who jumped you. Why are you looking at his file like you know him?" She hesitated. Carter's voice lowered. "You knew him, didn't you?" She stood up abruptly. "Carter, this doesn't concern you. Don't lie to me. You looked terrified when I saw that photo. That wasn't just some random mugger. Who the hell was he?" Silence stretched between them like a blade. Then, softly, Savannah sat back down and said, "He was my ex-fiancé." Carter blinked. "What?" "Trevor Maddox. We were engaged 6 years ago. He helped me launch Westech in the early stages. But he became unstable, obsessive, violent. I broke it off after he hit me in a meeting. I buried it. Never pressed charges. But I made sure he could never come near me again." Carter's breath hitched. "And that day," she continued, voice trembling, "he wasn't there to rob me. He was there to send a message." Carter stepped back like he'd been punched. "So I didn't save a stranger," he muttered. "I walked into your mess. It wasn't supposed to happen. I was careful. I never thought he'd find me again. And you didn't think I deserved to know?" Her voice cracked. "I was trying to protect you." "No," he said sharply. "You were protecting yourself. You put me between you and a man who wanted you dead, and then gave me a job like that made it all okay." Savannah looked down. "I didn't plan for any of this. But after that day, after what you did, I knew I couldn't let you disappear. And I didn't think you'd stay if you knew the truth." Carter's chest rose and fell with rage. Not just at her, but at himself, for trusting so easily, for letting her kindness blind him. "Everything I built here," he said slowly, "I earned. Every late night, every insult I swallowed. And now it turns out the foundation was a lie." Savannah stood again, desperation creeping in her voice. "Carter." "No," he interrupted. "I'll finish the merger paperwork. I'll do my job. But don't expect trust again. You broke that." Then he turned and walked out, his footsteps echoing across the marble like gunshots. Savannah stood frozen in the glass-paneled office, the city lights twinkling behind her like silent witnesses. She'd saved him from a dead-end life. But in trying to protect him, she might have destroyed everything they built. It had been 6 days since Carter last set foot on the 41st floor. He didn't quit. He didn't even call in sick. He just disappeared. No calls, no texts, no updates. He'd been staying in a small roadside motel, far from the shining towers of Westech. The walls were thin, the AC rattled at night, and the sheets smelled like bleach and regret. But it was quiet, and Carter needed quiet. His heart hadn't stopped replaying Savannah's confession. Her face when she said Trevor's name. The guilt in her eyes. The tears she didn't shed. He had stepped into that alley thinking he was rescuing a stranger. Instead, he was a human shield in a war he didn't even know existed. She should have told him, but she didn't. And even though part of him hated her for that, another part, a quieter, bruised part, still wanted to protect her. He was furious, but he wasn't indifferent. And that distinction would become the very thing that changed everything. Back at Westech, Savannah's empire was cracking at the seams. The board had called an emergency meeting. Word had gotten out about the incident, Trevor's connection, the mugging, and the rumors that Savannah had let personal emotions dictate executive decisions. Lyle Benton, the weasel with a polished tie and a rotting soul, was leading the attack. We can't trust a CEO who hides threats from her staff and appoints nobodies off the street, he declared. She compromised this company with secrets. And frankly, I think it's time we voted on new leadership. The boardroom fell quiet. Savannah sat at the head of the table, composed but hollow. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't forgiven herself. I'll step down, she said softly, if that's what you decide. You're not fighting this, one director asked. She smiled weakly. I'll only fight battles worth winning. And if this company believes I'm unfit, I'd rather leave with integrity than claw at power. A silence fell. And then, the door slammed open. Carter Blake walked in, clean-shaven, shoulders squared, wearing the same suit Savannah gave him his first day. He looked around the table of skeptics and traitors without blinking. I object to this vote, he said. Lyle scoffed. You don't even work here anymore. Carter tossed a folder onto the table. A full audit of the merger Westech was about to sign. I found a discrepancy in the numbers while I was gone. The company you're merging with? They've buried $14 million in fake liabilities under shell contracts. If this merger goes through, Westech will tank in 3 months. A few board members flipped through the pages, eyes widening. Where did you get this? One of them asked. Carter didn't even look at Lyle. I did the work. In my motel room, while you all tried to stage a coup. Savannah blinked. You came back. I didn't come back for you, Carter said, turning to face her. I came back because this place, this company, matters. Because even when I was angry, even when I felt betrayed, I knew this place was bigger than one mistake. Lyle stood, red-faced. This is ridiculous. You're not even on payroll anymore. Actually, said Dana, Savannah's assistant, stepping in. His badge never got deactivated. Technically, he's still an employee. The board erupted in whispers. Savannah stood slowly, tears pricking her eyes. You had every right to walk away, she said quietly. Carter met her gaze. But I didn't, he replied. You lied. And I hated you for it. But then I remembered something my father used to say. Sometimes people make terrible decisions while trying to do the right thing. She took a shaky breath. I'm sorry. I know. He turned to the board. Keep her, he said simply. She's not perfect, but neither is this company. She's just the only one in this room who knows how to fight for something that matters. Silence. Then one by one, the hands went up. The vote failed. Savannah stayed. Lyle stormed out. Later that night, Savannah stood on the rooftop of Westech, staring over the city skyline. Carter joined her. You should hate me, she whispered. I don't, he said. Why? He looked at her with tired eyes, full of scars and something softer. Because the first person who ever saw potential in me was you. She reached in her coat and pulled out a key. What's this? Your own office. Permanent role. No assistant title. VP of Acquisitions. You earned it. He laughed softly. You're still a little crazy. She grinned. Takes one to hire one. He took the key, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel lost. He felt like he'd finally stepped into the life he was meant to live. Not because someone handed it to him, but because he fought for it, with fists, heart, and truth.